Okay, today we are covering the second lecture, as Adil Saab is our old student and he joined us a couple of days back. So, in lecture number two, what we are covering is data types and the architecture of ABAP. And we'll be also running a small code just to understand how executions are done at the architecture level. So broadly speaking, how is the architecture in SAP? The architecture in SAP for ABAP is basically where ABAP is operating at the operational or the middleware level at the application server. At the user end, we have the presentation server, that is the SAP GUI, okay, the user interface. And the application server at the application layer, or call it the middleware, we have the ABAP interpreter, the dispatcher, that are working along with in parallel with other functional modules, configuration and customization. So the request gets generated from the user end, and it is basically then broken down into various work processes or tickets. And we have a context that is buffered. What is context? We'll see that ahead. Okay. So what are types of work processes? These are dialog request, request to update data in database, background jobs, spool request, logical lock, routing messages, funnel messages. Okay, now these are some of the work processes that handle the request coming in from various sources. That is the user end, the integration, the cloud, the third-party software, the integration, the external software that connects and communicates with SAP. So the ABAP dispatcher sits in the middle, and it handles all of these work process through these protocols, which are the dialog work process, the background jobs, the lock management. What are these basically? If we can actually go into a little bit of detail. Now, the background process, this happens when quite a lot of entries from finance, inventory, production have to be reconciled at the end of the month, when the month has to be closed, reconciled, and carried forward to the next month or to the next year. That reconciliation can be done manually, but that takes time. And many of the processes are reconciled automatically, but that has to be done in the background. The depreciation of assets that can run into many lines of transactions, line items in SAP, and that can run in thousands of lines, thousands of transactions, and thousands of vouchers. And that depreciation first has to be calculated, and then automatically it has to be posted to documents. So if we run that in the background, it will take quite a lot of system resources, and it will also eat up quite a lot of time. So most of the consultants and departments rely on background jobs. That is where the SAP takes care of the execution of these such jobs in the foreground, in the background, while rest of the system resources are freed, and the system is basically executing and calculating and posting transactions using system resources at the very minimal level. And background, of course, it requires a little bit of a hindsight and foresight as to the health of the transaction, so that no errors are encountered. Because in SAP, in earlier versions, any error in the transaction would have actually blocked background, those transactions would block the transactions right in the middle. But now in S/4HANA, the error parts are actually sidelined, okay? And those are basically pushed aside, while the rest of the transactions that have no errors are executed and posted, okay? The update process is basically for the database, because the updates, the records, the tables are updated in the database. Messaging server handles communication between distributed dispatchers. The gateway reader enables communication between SAP systems and external systems. The ICM, Internet Communication Manager, it communicates through the web protocols, that is HTTP. The user context that we saw in earlier slide, it is basically the memory is allocated to certain default information like the default for the user preferences like date preferences, currency preferences, the number and date format, okay, the current settings, authorizations, these are basically loaded into the buffer and that are accessed and run in parallel by the ABAP middleware. So the ABAP dispatcher, how it works very closely with the work processes, which has many more segments within a work process, okay? And those work processes basically are in collusion, in parallel, working with the database, the functional modules, the configuration, the user context, the shared memory, everything is basically running in parallel in synchronization, okay? The database layer, the SAP system has a central database which the entire data set is stored. Not only application data, but also all other data is updated in the database. The software component responsible for the database layer consists of the RDBMS and the actual database. Not only application data, but also the administration data, customizing, as I said earlier, the source code is also stored here. Okay. The dispatcher, again, these are the work processes that work with the database process. And the database gets updated by and handled by the dispatcher, the buffer. It stores the work requests and the user context as well. Okay. The presentation layer basically is operating at the user end part, while the rest of the processes are handled by ABAP without the user knowing it. Okay. As I said, the buffer stores customizing data, currencies, and company codes. Okay. And a copy of database is also loaded into the buffer, into the shared memory. The ABAP interpreter locks communication through the database interface, or it can also through the queries, the SQL queries, the native SQL, it can also access the database directly. The ABAP programs are executed in a client-server architecture where the client generates a request and the server acknowledges that. These receive inputs from the presentation layer and work with the data in the database layer. Okay. So now this is the code that we'll be working with, and it's pretty simple. Okay, let me just take you to the main ZT81 data types. I hope the server is not idle. And 22nd of December. I hope the system is not knocked out. I guess it is knocked out, but anyways, not to worry about. We'll just revive it. Okay. Yeah, it is gone. So I'll just relog in it. So this is the code that we'll write right now. Okay. And okay. SC38 ZT81 data types 22nd December. Create. Okay, now SC38 is our primary T code. If you want to see where is the T code, this is the T code. SC38 where we'll be writing our source code. Okay. Data types 27 December T executable Save local object. I'll explain these fields later on. Let's first execute the code first. Okay. Now, what is in our code? Data, data. Oh, sorry. Data, WA mact. Now, what is WA mact? I'll just share it with you. Okay. Select single from MAKT into that where partner equals pmatner, right? Now, what is mact? Parameters type matner. Okay. Now, over here we have mact, which is the table. We'll also see the table. Where to see the table? From SC11, mact, and display. It will show all the rows and fields of this table. So it's a standard table. Okay. Now this is parameters. Parameters will take input into pmatner. Now matner is, what is matner? The matner is material number. Okay. Material number. And pmatner, why do we write P? Because this is, P stands for parameter. So any other consultant looking at this code will understand this variable is for parameters. Okay. Now select single. Now select single. Now select single is basically a keyword where we are selecting a row, single record from MAKT, which will load into WA mact. Now, what is WA mact? What does WA mean here? WA means here work area, because we cannot directly update or change the records in the tables. No. So we actually create a work area, a tools area where we can work on the tables. Okay, so the work area mact is a copy type of MAKT, the standard table. Okay, so this is the work area. So that record of MAKT will be loaded into MAKT. It will select, it will pick and load it into when the matna material number is equal to the parameter that we have given. And then we'll write the record, because it has been loaded into work area. Okay, so I'll check it first. No syntax, activate. Okay, direct processing, matner 01, execute, and it produces me the name of the material, raw material word. This is the parameter. Okay, so you can, for example, if I take any other AB blade 01, now this is the material number, and 100 AB blade 01, and this is the name of the blade, the description, and this is the another description in capital block letters. Okay. Okay, now at this point, what I'll do, Shift Control F12, and the debugger will be selected over here. When we run a debugger, it will show what values get updated in this part. Okay, so let me show you. Okay. AB blade, execute. Now the debugger will start. A debugger over here. Now it has reached over here because it has read this part, it has read this part. Now it will load over here. So what I'll do now, WMAC double click, P Matner. It has AB Blade 01. Okay. Now it will load because P Matner, this is the parameter. It has this parameter that has been given by the user. Now it will select all the records from MAKT for the P Matner, which is AB Blade 01. So I'll click F5, F5, and it produces me that record. Okay, now okay. Now, since we've been talking about MAKT, WMAKT, work area MAKT, let me show you SE11. This was SE38, MAKT display. Now, work area MAKT is the parallel equal of this table MAKT, which is material descriptions. And it was actually the parallel copy of all of these fields. Now, these fields basically are covering what areas and what are these fields. Let's cover these one by one. Matner is material number. Spras is language. Mactex is material description. MAKTG is description in uppercase for match codes. So this is your standard table. We have other tables as well, like Mara and display, more technical settings. And over here, the buffering that we were so much speaking of, we can activate the buffering for any table, the standard tables even, but it's not recommended to change the settings. Now, this table, what is it about? This is about general material data, which includes client material number. Now, this is a common identifier. If you look at this field, there are some checks that are enabled here, which is a key field. Now, key field, like you can use this key field to connect and integrate with other tables because MAKT as well has a material number, so that is a connector. Initialization, okay. Now, these are the fields which are key fields, but it cannot be empty. Whenever these are referenced, these fields cannot be empty. These fields cannot remain empty and have to be filled and initialized or by default are filled. Okay. So whenever you're pulling a material number, there will be a material, it will get loaded and it will be initialized. You cannot actually have a matner without a material number when we are accessing MARA. Okay. T01W, now this is a plant. T01W. Display. How many fields do we have? This is plants and branches. Now, plant is again initialized. It will not be null whenever we pull data from T01. It will be based on the plant, name, valuation area, customer number, supplier number of plant. Okay. So if you look at the technical, the settings, buffering is activated by default because this is a standard table again, and it has been activated by SAP itself. And this is now three combinations of tables will be used: Mara, MAKT, and plant, and we'll be using this transaction, VF03. Now, what is VF03? This is a sales document, billing document from sales and distribution module. Okay, 905, I'll pick any random change. And over here, if you see what are the combination of tables that group together to form this billing document. Continue. Okay. Over here, we have the billing document number. Material, where is it coming from? Press F1. Technical information. Over here, what is the table name? VBRP. Again, field name is MATNA. The common connector is MATNA for Mara, VBRP, MAKT, T01, not T01, that is for plants only. So we can actually, using this field connector, we can integrate and pull out the plant data as well. Okay. So this is basically what we can establish just from one transaction. There are multiple tables. If I press F1 over here, technical information, VBRK, field name is VBELN. Okay. And what does it have? It has the number of the billing document. Okay. This is the billing document. Net value, where is this coming from? And where is it getting stored? You'll see that the amount, this is the amount number, VBRK network, the amount. Okay, so you can actually now understand how tables can be utilized to produce details of a billing document if you want to pull data. Now, what this pair field is about, where is it coming from? It's coming from which table? KURGV, and KUNNR is the field name for customer. Okay, so you will be working with 3 to 4 tables. Now, what the billing date? What table is it coming from? VBRK FKDAT. Okay. I hope this is clear. Yeah. Let's go to accounting. If we have an accounting invoice at the back end, of course, then we'll see. Accounting document, double click. Over here, we have sales customer document number. Now, where is document number coming from? F1, technical information, and we have BKPF, Bellner. Bellner is document number. BKPF is the table, main table. And double click sales, GL account, company code. Now, GL account, where is it coming from? General ledger account. It's coming from BSEG HCONT. It's for account. Okay, GL account, BSEG HCONT. So you can actually get an understanding of the front end using table names and fields, and that's what we are going to cover in ABAP. One by one,